Environmental justice is the movement against environmental racism, which places our most toxic industries, landfills, petrochemical companies, all the things you don't want in your backyard are most often placed in our country and globally in areas of low-income communities and also in communities of color, overwhelmingly so, resulting in reduced quality of life and reduced health for those communities. So as an environmental justice center, we recognize that that happens and we want to be a witness to that happening and to grow awareness and action to keep that from happening. The National United Church of Christ has an environmental justice train the trainer workshop that they host around the country. It's geared for adults and it's an intensive retreat where they really delve into some heavy issues.
And what we're trying to do is develop an environmental conscience, is that you're aware of your impact all the time, not in a way that provokes guilt from you, but in a way that says, I'm aware that what I use, what I misuse, it has an impact. It has an impact on somebody somewhere.
We drove all the way down to Bridgeport to see one of the dirtiest coal-fired power plants left in our state.
You can see how close in proximity you have the residents that live here. 3 years ago, the current health director did an air monitoring analysis to see where the highest level of pollutions were located. Around every existing facility, the asthma rates are much higher.
Can you give us some idea about the ethnic makeup in the neighborhoods around here?
87% of the residents are people of color. The average income in this vicinity is $11,400, below the average national income. That's why they've ranked this plant among the 10 top environmental justice offending coal plants in the entire country for 2 consecutive years. It's all connected. What goes on here in Bridgeport is connected to the mining in Indonesia of the coal. Whether it's the 3 villages that have their river so polluted by the coal mining that they can't drink and can't get their water needs met, or whether it's the 2 villages that were displaced by coal mine expansion in 2003, all from the same company that this coal plant buys their coal from in Indonesia. And it's connected to climate change. And climate change, by the way, is disproportionately impacting communities of color and low-income communities like the people here in Bridgeport.
I've heard about the issues before from my job, but it's still not the same as seeing it.
Going into the community and seeing the level of disrepair and neglect. Just thinking like, wow, the power plant is the 2nd largest tax base, but those taxes aren't being used for the community who are being most affected by the smokestack.
I think that there's more awareness of the pollution of burning it here and less of where it's coming from. Actually, until your last time around, so I realized with the mountaintop removal, it's like I had no idea how bad it was getting it in the first place.
Right.
So it's just a bad trip from beginning to end.
Once you take a bite of the apple of knowledge, once you understand something, then you are responsible for your actions and your inactions. Because God knows what you know and you know what God knows. That's what the Scripture says. So in other words, once you know something and you know that it's wrong, you are responsible for your action. Both your action about it and your inaction.
The people who sign up for the Environmental Justice Train the Trainer workshops are largely white, older people, which is great, and I'm glad that these conversations are happening regardless of the audience, but to not have those other voices at the table, communities of color, low-income communities, younger people, it's a big gap in our outreach. And so that's what inspired me to host our first environmental justice for youth of color here at Silver Lake. So it was a really unique opportunity to have those youth lead the conversation.
Pam really taught me a lot. Like, she helped us make a plan for how we were gonna spread this knowledge to others. I loved it. It was awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I used to litter. When I was done with something, I would just drop it on the ground. At my grandparents' house, now we have 2 recycling bins. People don't understand that sometimes it doesn't have to be big to make an impact. Like, just me picking up trash on the ground can make a big difference.
So when kids come to Silver Lake, or when adults come to Silver Lake, they take part in all the different ways that we are trying to reduce our impact on the earth, whether that's using the composting toilet instead of one of our low flush toilets, or we're eating food that's sourced from local farms, or we're eating food straight from our garden. You're coming into the garden and you're learning about how a simple decision about what to eat has so many larger impacts related to our environment, to environmental justice, to social justice, to economic justice. Buy organic. If you choose organic, you take away the GMOs. You take away the pesticides. We want people to come here to learn about the environment, and about God and about nature. But we also want to make sure that the message is being brought to the communities where environmental injustice is happening, to where these conversations aren't happening. Everything is needed. And so we're hoping that that message goes right back home with everybody. We need environmental disciples everywhere.